Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Hey y'all, it's me, the Bus Sizzler, and welcome back to Hot or Hot. And today we'll be reviewing the penultimate episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 16. In a challenge inspired by RuPaul's new memoir, our final four were challenged to shoot book covers with photography direction by RuPaul Andre Charles himself, and to write stories about their lives, which they shared in a podcast-style interview on the main stage with Matt Rogers, who co-hosts with Bo and Yang the Las Culturistas podcast. And the runway category was Fan-Dango. And now, with the rabble and scraps, in the words of Plain Jane, eliminated from the competition, let's go ahead and break down how our final four did. First up, and in the order they did their interviews, we have Plain Jane. Her book is called Plane Crash and features her standing in front of what is possibly a mountainous countryside, perhaps having just survived a plane crash. And while the title of her book is clever and I think on brand with her sense of humor, I just didn't feel like there was a lot of thought put into this behind that initial funny idea. And purely speaking on a visual level, her cover is one of the weakest. And that is partly because of her look, I think, being a little asynchronous with the idea of what's going on, because her outfit is perfectly intact and doesn't look like it has seen a single pile of plane wreckage. But then she tried to seemingly incorporate a bit of messiness into the eye makeup and hair, which all just doesn't really translate into one cohesive thing. And in the podcast interview, they're going over the story she wrote with a chapter title of Being a Bitch Can Be an Act of Kindness, which is, again, funny, but beyond that one little tagline, there just isn't a lot of substance. And if this were a less serious challenge, maybe she could have been more successful in this very stupid and haphazard approach. But when everyone else is like spilling their hearts out and talking about real traumas or past missteps and how they overcame them to become a better person, and she's sitting there saying, a good friend told me to improve my makeup, it's just like, okay, we're not really on the same plane, if you will, here. Plus, she goes on to talk about how she's learned tact throughout this competition in her shade delivery, and then immediately proves that she did in fact not learn a single shred of tact throughout this competition when Matt Rogers asked her to throw a little shade, and she has something to say about each and every one of her sisters. And recounting all of this, I can't say what she did wasn't ultimately funny and entertaining. It was. But I'm also not gonna sit here and be sold on the idea that this book is gonna offer any sort of meaningful self-help. So I'm gonna give this overall a Over on the runway, though, she is, as she says, descending from Mount Olympus, giving Grecian goddess Aphrodite beauty. She looks absolutely stunning on this runway. Just every single detail of this look is right. I love the crown. I absolutely love how she played with hardness versus softness with the pleats and the skirt and that sculpted stoned bodice. It's absolutely gorgeous. And she is carrying a fan, which she uses a bit on the runway as a prop in a nod to the runway brief, but the larger ode to fans is actually in that beautiful cape and skirt where it's all pleated to look like the inner folds of a fan when you open it. Mama, kudos for wearing this. You look gorgeous. This look is totally hot. And I just want to say, she needs to like teach a class to anyone going on RuPaul's Drag Race on how to properly wear and blend in a breastplate, because the way that all of her outfits perfectly cover some of those hard lines on the silicone versus skin under the arm and around the neck, perfect every single time. And you know what's crazy? Crazy Frog. But you know what's even crazier? That there's tons of online content like Season 16 of RuPaul's Drag Race that gets locked behind geo-restriction bars on streaming platforms everywhere. Meaning if you're in the US and wanting to watch Season 16, it's chocolate. But with Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of today's video, I can connect to a virtual private network server in, let's say, Argentina, and get immediate access to online content available only in that country, which on this streaming platform includes every season of RuPaul's Drag Race and Untucked. I also love using Surfshark because it helps block ads and trackers and keeps me safe from sneaky snoopers on public Wi-Fi who might be looking to do some cookie theft. That's right, Surfshark VPN ensures a high-level AES 256 GCM encryption for all of your internet activities. Even walking that duck, mama. And best of all, you can use Surfshark on all of your devices with unlimited device login. Plus, there's no risk in just trying it out because Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description of my video to get Surfshark today. And make sure to use code Bussy during checkout to get 3 additional months of Surfshark for free. That's right, when you click my link and use code Bussy at checkout, you'll get 3 additional months for free. Thanks Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. And next we've got Sapphira Cristal, whose book is called Slewfoot, Embracing All of Me. And possibly more than anyone else tonight, I think Sapphira did an excellent job at connecting the title and message of her book throughout the interview and the picture that we see on the cover, and just everything is very clear about what she's saying and what she wants us to get. I really like that they kept her cover simple and just did a blue background, her blue sapphire color, ultimately allowing us to just focus on her, exactly who she is right there on the cover. And in her book, her story talks about learning to embrace and love herself through some of the special women in her life, like her mother and grandma, and goes on to discuss her unrelenting self-acceptance in every aspect of her life, all the way down to her slew foot. And this is the perfect theme for Sapphira in a book because she is an absolute shining image of confidence, poise, and professionalism on that stage every single week. And I think you can only really get to that point of being so comfortable on a stage like that when you have actually accepted every part of yourself. Plus, she's just one of those people that when they speak, you want to hear, and she did a great job giving a podcast interview that made me want to tune in and like hear another episode next week. Her performance in this challenge was and a little slew, because we're all a little slew. Mama, kudos for saying that, for slewing. And on the runway, we're seeing some more of Sapphira's branded signature blue color in this gorgeous blue satin gown. And I was a little worried at first when she walked out because I only saw her carrying this one little fan right in front of her, and I was like, did she really just put on a gorgeous gown and carry a fan and call it a day for the fan runway? But she said, I'm not done yet. She hit the end of the runway. And then in one of the more interesting reveals I think we've ever seen on the main stage, the two sides of her gown like open up to reveal two giant fans, one on each side, identical in fabric and pattern, that like triple her silhouette on that stage. And she looks so gorgeous in this. It's a very regal and elegant look that she says is paying homage to African queens and African fabrics. And also calls out that this gown design is a reference to Roberto Capucci, an Italian fashion designer. This look is gorgeous. It's perfect. Sapphira is that girl. It's giving 5 out of 5 flames. Next up, get ready to savor every letter. It's Q, who's titled her book Alphabet Soup. Savor every bite. And I've got to say, of all the book covers, I really do not like this book cover. And it is rare that I just like actively dislike something, but there is something about this that just feels like daycare to me, and it's giving me these really horrible PTSD flashbacks to that. Like, why does this look like an after-school special on a book cover? I don't understand the choice in art direction there, especially considering who we know Q to be. Like, seriously, looking at her catalog of runways she's presented throughout this season, and then looking at this book cover, it's just confusing and makes me feel like I didn't actually figure out who Q was through the season, but she's got this whole other persona that now she's also trying to let us see. And a big part of why this book cover is so unappealing, I think, is the outfit she's wearing, which again, just doesn't really make sense for who we as viewers of this season know Q to be. She's giving us like grandma's nightgown meets clown outfit, but monochromatic beige. Her interview with Matt was a bit better than the actual book cover they produced though. She talks about her close relationship with her mother and how her mom was always one of her biggest supporters in her creative endeavors. She also opens up about some more humble beginnings, being a low-income family, and how her mom was not only one of her biggest supporters, but also had 3 other children to take care of. And I enjoyed learning a little more about Q and her upbringing, but I was kind of missing a deeper telling of some real lived experience that maybe would have helped us to understand her psyche a bit better. Because she's talking about celebrating the good and the bad with this concept of savoring every bite and then linking that all back to soup. But I'm like, who, what, when, where, why, and how? What we saw and heard was just a puzzle missing too many pieces for me, I think. So I'm gonna leave this with like a soft rock. And over on the runway, knock knock, who's there? Orange. Orange who? Orange Q. The best I had, I'm sorry. I didn't even really try. I can't even say I tried. Anyways, what we immediately notice about this look is that it's orange and it is on brief. Like, this look was certainly intended to walk the Fandango runway and nothing else. Because girl, everywhere you look, there's a fan. In the bodice, there's a fan. In the tutu, there's a fan. On the collar, there's a fan. On the peplum above the tutu, there are fans. And Q, I think, wins the award for most fans on her runway tonight. And as usual, the craftsmanship in this look is really fun. I love how structured structured everything is and how sharp the lines are with those pleats and the fans. But on the other hand, I think there's also a couple of different conflicting ideas going on here with that like ice skater, almost applique bodysuit, and then the red dripping crystals, which are supposed to be accenting these fans, but kind of take away from them for me. It feels almost like they finished the look with the silhouette and then just started adding random accents to it that just aren't working. I also think the hair is not helping because like last week, she did this thing where there is this beautiful sculpted middle piece in the wig, but then on the sides, it's like she had a fit in the bathroom and like grabbed a pair of scissors and just went to town. So overall, this look for me is gonna be a rot. And finally, she's in her self-confidence era. It's Nymphia Wind. And her book is titled Breaking Wind, The Art of Letting Go. And let me just break this wind first. This book cover is immaculate, and that is mostly because of the stunning outfit Nymphia's in. This look is incredible. It's giving me cybergoth, Blade Runner realness. It is sick. And thankfully, she and whoever else was working with them on these covers made the decision to keep the background plain white because, wow, this is a stunning book cover that if I ever entered a library and saw, I would pull off the shelves and check out. And everything about what is communicated on this cover perfectly represents her personality and drag. She's funny and fashionable, which also comes through in the interview with Matt. Her interview begins with them recounting a story of Nymphia getting ghosted on a second date after getting dog poop all over her at a park slide. We've all been there. Relatable queen. And then manages to finish her interview with one of the most moving stories about a lived experience I've ever heard on Drag Race. She talks about growing up in Taiwan and being inundated with images of Western, white, Caucasian beauty, and how she never felt beautiful enough or attractive because she didn't look like all of this Western culture that she was constantly seeing. She then goes on to talk about how drag helped her find self-confidence and beauty in herself, both in and out of drag. And even though she's articulated an experience of self-doubt unique to her experience growing up, she's done it in a relatable way that I think anyone who's ever felt less than or not good enough can relate to. And this really was such a great full circle moment to finally hear Nymphia open up and talk about why she's had so much self-doubt throughout the competition. And also great to hear because in spite of that self-doubt, she has ultimately overcome every obstacle and now landed herself in the final four. Or 3. I was genuinely moved by her podcast interview, and to Nymphia, I want to say, Mama, kudos for saying that, for spilling. Her performance in this challenge was and over on the runway, she is saying to all the plebes, let them break wind. She is giving us, as she says, an Asian version of Marie Antoinette in this very Baroque style where all the details have been replaced with elements of her Asian heritage. Like, for example, this beautiful blue satin fabric that is used to make up the primary part of the gown. And I love how she's put these fan details as part of the actual dress construction under the skirt peplum. And then also, of course, over the nails. Like, that is so fun and just showing, again, how she is constantly thinking about every single detail. I also love that in the hair, where we might traditionally see something like little tiny butterflies or bows, she's actually put clouds, like as if to give a nod to her last name, Wind. Well, she's got a great little reveal at the end of the runway where she reveals that her nether region is on fire, which she then does proceed to fan. And I'm not sure if she made the connection between like fans making flames worse, but maybe she likes a little extra burn. This look is literally on fire. It's hot. Michelle, though, did seem a little agitated to see another Marie Antoinette look on the runway, and I will say yes, this look has been done to death across the Drag Race franchise. But for a look that is so absolutely done to death, she, I think, found so many great ways to truly make it her own, as she always does. And the win this week does go to Nymphia Wind, which I was very happy with. I also could have seen a win justified for Sapphira, because I think both queens did a really great job of truly understanding what they were being asked in this challenge, which was to give us your raw, real lived experience and talk about how you have overcome adversity to essentially wind up where you are now. And they both found comedic and fierce ways to communicate that in both their podcast interviews and book covers. Which means our bottom two are Q and Plain Jane, who end up lip syncing to Better Be Good to Me by Tina Turner. And I did react to this lip sync as well as the best parts of this episode over in my Patreon at patreon.com/BussyQueen. But instead of me telling you how great my Patreon is, I would like to read a comment from one of my patrons, Ringley, who wrote this. I'm so glad that I signed up for your Patreon. I've been watching you for around 2 years now over on YouTube, but I was unprepared for how much I like this too. I didn't realize that the YouTube vids are more tailored for a wider audience. All of the extra stuff that I was always wishing for from your YouTube show is right here on Patreon. I should have joined sooner and not let past experiences with other YouTube Patreon creators jade me to expecting less or just more of the same. And to Ringley, I say, Mama, kudos for saying that. for spilling. And thank you. And don't forget, you too can expand your Bussy Queen experience at patreon.com/BussyQueen. But I'll be honest about this lip sync. It wasn't my favorite. It felt very like both queens were doing their own thing, and neither of their own things were 100% the things that should have been done to this Tina Turner song. And I do think Plain was the better of these two in this lip sync, but it did feel like one of those lip syncs where it was like, okay, well, someone's gotta win. And that winner was clearly Plain. Which means we see Q sashay away, which honestly did gag me a little bit for sure. I guess I was kind of going into this thinking this top four is so amazing and they represent such different facets of drag. Surely all four will progress into the finale, but that's not what had happened. And I was actually wondering if RuPaul was even having second thoughts as she was saying it, because it felt like there was a lot of delay between the like, Q, insert compliments that Ru said here, now finally sashay away. But she does, and you know, Q seemed a little hard on herself as she was leaving the show, but I can understand how this must have been incredibly difficult to get so close to the finale and then ultimately not be allowed to be in it. This top three though is absolutely phenomenal, and we've got 11 wins across these three finalists entering the finale. That is insane. 4, 4, and 3. Like, this crowning will be neck and neck. But I would also love to know, who are y'all rooting for in the grand finale? Are you team Nymphia, are you team Sapphira, or team Plain Jane? As for who's team Iman, that's a secret I'll never tell. And finally, let's talk hottest hots. On the runway this week, I'm gonna give it to Plain Jane. And in the challenge, Nymphia Wind. I also asked my patrons to vote on their hottest hots, and this week they've chosen Plain Jane for the runway and Nymphia Wind in the challenge. And then we give an extra special thanks to Surfshark, the sponsor of today's video, who I've trusted to keep my internet activity safe and unlocked geo-restricted around the globe for years now. Don't forget, when you click my link below and use code Bussy at checkout, you'll get 3 additional months of Surfshark for free. And finally, I want to give an extra special shout out to Ashley Brungart, Childfree Mateo, Dorothy Hall, Felicia, Laura, Matthew Burns, Stephen Topher, and Will and Tana, who are all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier. See y'all later. Love ya. Bye.